Hello chaps and chapesses, and today we're going to talk about the Rio Elite GT fly line. So when it comes to fly lines for GTs, as you know, I can be extremely particular. Well, okay, very particular. I'm always on the hunt for a fly line which is going to fit into the perfect categories of the things which I think are important when you are fly fishing for giant trevally. These three things are strength. It has to have an extremely strong core, stronger than your average 30-pound cord fly line. The second thing is durability. It has to be a durable fly line. There's no point in having a perfect profile if the thing's going to fall apart after a couple of trips. That's no use to me at all. And the third thing is obviously profile and what it casts like. Now, I've got a little bit of a pet peeve when it comes to 12 weight, 11 weight fly lines, and that is I like fly lines which have got a longer belly. I know this is something I have spoken about in previous fly line reviews that I have done. I am not a fan of short-headed fly lines. I never have been, and I don't think I ever will. And there is a reason behind that. When it comes to GT fishing, it is very different to fishing for tarpon, for example, on the front of a skiff or on the front of a boat, where it is going to be absolutely fine to have a short-headed fly line, which you can pick up and shoot and pop it straight out, and you can make your cast, and it's pretty easy to have all the running line managed on a deck. It is a very different story when you are wading up to your waist or sometimes even your chest in the surf line while hunting giant trevally. And therefore I think it requires a different mindset when it comes to fly lines. And mine is that I prefer fly lines which have got a longer belly on them. It doesn't have to be too long, but it has to be long enough so that if I put that shot down into the surf line, I don't want to be trying to strip a whole bunch of running line so that I can then pick that cast up and put it down again, because by then the fish is gone. It's a speed game. You have to be able to present quickly, and you have to actually be able to present quickly again if you screw up the shot and put the fly in the wrong place. And because I have that slightly obsessive and compulsive nature, I tend to play with every new fly line that comes out. And I was extremely excited when Rio came out with the new Rio GT. Don't be mistaken, this is not the old Rio GT, this is the new Rio GT, and it's completely different. The original Rio GT line, I had a little input in when they began to design it and put it together, and it was kind of based around a Leviathan. It was supposed to be one of their heavier cord fly lines. It did have, in my opinion, too much weight in the front. So when they made it, they came out with a 400 grain, a 475 grain, and a 550 grain fly line. Now at the time, a lot of people were measuring heavier fly lines in grains, but actually, to most people, I think it was extremely confusing because they all thought that the 550 would probably be the one to put on a 12 weight, but it's way too heavy. And the 475 was kind of okay, but I would have liked it a little bit lighter still. And the 400 grain, which I think was supposed to be for a 10 or 11, the head was so short that basically you couldn't really put a long distance cast into it, and it just didn't really quite load up enough. So I am so pleased that they've gone back to the drawing board with this one and they've completely redeveloped this line. When I first began to be involved with that process, I did have a whole bunch of prototype fly lines which I took out to Christmas Island a very long time ago. Some of those were really fantastic. In fact, actually, I think I've still got one or two of those old prototypes left. They were more around the sort of 450 grain mark. a slightly longer handling taper, which made life easier when you wanted to pick it up and put it down again. And when the production lines came out, I had to say I was a little bit disappointed that actually they hadn't gone with one of those middle line profiles. And I understand that maybe they thought that this would be a good plan to get big heavy flies to turn over for people that couldn't cast maybe quite as hard or as far as others. And I understand that, you know, that has to be taken into consideration. The thing is that most people who are going to go GT fishing have probably got a reasonable amount of experience and have a certain amount of casting ability. You're not going to basically pay all that money to go to the far side of the world and chase a particular species unless you are pretty obsessed. And most people who are pretty obsessed, I suppose I would be included in that bracket, are going to have spent quite a lot of time in preparing for this trip. Many people basically turned around and said that that fly line was too heavy. So it was too heavy to load up a 12 weight or load up an 11 weight, and it was just a very heavy fly line. And I think I'm kind of in agreement. The 475 for me went okay on a 12, but as I like to fish with an 11 weight most of the time on the flats, it didn't quite fit one bracket or the other. So enter the new Rio Elite slick cast coated GT fly line. This is a very different kettle of fish, if you'll forgive the pun. So I got my paws on one of these before I headed for Providence in March this year. I really wanted to put it through its paces before I then did a review video. I wanted to make sure that I thought that it was what it said on the tin. Well, I'm back, obviously. It was a while ago now. It's taken me a while to put this video together. And I'm pleased to report that when I got this thing down on the flats, I was blown away. I really actually was mildly surprised about how good it was now. And the wonderful thing, the first thing which I thought was great, was that they have made it weight forward 10, weight forward 11, and weight forward 12. Nice and simple, and everybody can understand that. Thank you, Rio. So going back to the 3 points that I think are very important with a GT fly line. First, the strength. Well, the new line is built on the 65-pound breaking strain core, which is the heaviest core that Rio make any fly lines on. The only other fly lines built on that are their tarpon fly lines and also the Leviathan. So from a strength perspective, tick. Very happy. Next, it's also built on their DirectCore. What does DirectCore mean, Pete? Well, DirectCore means you have a direct line between you and the fish. It is essentially a low stretch core. Why is that important, you say? The reason it's important is because when you put that rod out and you strip set, you don't have any sponge or slack. And that is vital when you're GT fishing. You've got to be able to create a very quick strip set. And so this line allows you to set that hook faster and harder than you could do on a different fly line. Next, we'll talk about profile. So here is the profile of the original Rio GT. As you can see, much more of that weight is built up against the front of the head, and then it quickly tapers, and then you have the long running line. Now the new one here is a very different profile. I know it still looks like a fairly short head at the front, but the entire back body and back taper has been lengthened out, and this is what makes the big difference. So it allows you to cast out with a big fly. It'll turn that big fly over because it's still quite a forward weighted head, but you have enough handling line and enough handling belly to be able to pick that fly line up again when you screw the shot up, which is vital. Well, it is for me, anyway. Next, it's built on their slick cast coating. And I've got to tell you, it's really slick. And I found that actually it was putting a little bit more length on my cast as it was slipping out through the ring so easily. But it wasn't too slippy. You know, I had a mastery many years ago which was so smooth that the thing would slip through my fingers while I was casting. I ended up having to take grips on it so that I could haul it properly. This is not that slick, but it is slick enough that it feels like it's just sliding through the rings with ease. And as a side effect of this slick cast coating, they have got extra durability in the fly line. Now, as I said about the Rio permit and the Rio bonefish, that's kind of slightly going to take the test of time. But this line went through hell in Providence for a week, and it still looks absolutely brand new. And it feels just as smooth as it did when I took it out of the box and put it on the reel. Granted, I haven't ravaged this one through a set of coral, which I don't think any fly line is going to survive. But as a general observation, it's still in extremely good nick. It's not sticky, and it's still very slick to the touch, and that is because that process of slick cast, it comes out of the fly line into the coating, and it continues to do that. Next is the tricolored measuring system. Now, they've installed this on all of their new top end fly lines, and I have to say I really like it. I think it's very cool. You know at any given point exactly where you are on your fly line, because as you come off the main belly, it turns orange as you go into the handling taper, and then as you come off the handling taper into the rear taper and into the running line, it turns green. So you know exactly whereabouts you are on the line at any given time. And that is absolutely invaluable, because it means in real terms, if you've got a fly line out there, you can see exactly where your handling taper is, how far you have to bring that line back before you can pick it up and put it down again. It just makes the job incredibly simple. So this fly line comes in a weight forward 10, a weight forward 11, and a weight forward 12. Those are exactly the sizes that you want to be using for GTs. You might be down to a 10 somewhere like Christmas Island, fishing inside the lagoon side or something like that. Most of the time on the flats in Providence or the Seychelles, I like to use an 11 weight. And for those people who are fishing along the surf line edge or who just want that extra grunt and power, then there is the 12 weight. And I've tried all of those on the 12, the 11 and the 10, and they are true to line weight. So each line feels like it matches your rod, which it did not before. So that is a huge improvement. Well done, Rio. So how much is it? Well, it's £129.99 Earth pence in this country, and I believe it is $129.99 US dollars. That is a lot for a fly line, granted, but that is also the level that most top-end fly lines are now at. And if this line is as durable as it is professed to be, then I think that that is a worthwhile investment. But nevertheless, it's a great fly line. I've really enjoyed using it. I've tested it as hard as I could. I have thumped it through some horrendous situations. I have fished with it in the surf line, and overall, I've checked. It's good. You should try one. I know one shouldn't obsess about fly lines quite as much as I do, but it is such an integral part of what we do as fly fishermen. The right fly line is actually probably the most important thing over everything else. You should be buying a fly line and matching your rod to the fly line, not the other way around. Because a different fly line can completely change the character of a rod, and if you get it right, it's absolutely sweet as a nut and fishes like a dream. Well, as Christmas Island is now opening up and the Seychelles season quickly approaches, I am very much looking forward to getting back on those flats and testing this fly line further. In the meantime, as always, I hope you found this video useful. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.